Comments from the public?
Not right now, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the first item. Ms. Hoffman?
All right, hello, thank you for having me. I'm here as the advisor to the FCCLA, our Pennridge Association of that. Our students are planning to attend the State Leadership Conference, which happens every year. Last year, we attended in Seven Springs. It was our first time attending. I took 3 of the 4 officers, and it was kind of almost like a recon mission, because we wanted to see what you could do. There are STAR events, which are basically events that the students can compete in different, lots of different things, interior design, advocacy. We're actually doing a team competition with their community service project. We're collecting cans at collecting canned food and non-perishable foods at 3 of the basketball games. And then delivering it to Man on Main in March when we do a community service day there in, I believe, March 15th. So students basically went last year, they enjoyed it. They do a lot of team building stuff. They get to meet members from the FCCLA chapters all over the state. It's great for me too, because I get to meet other FCS teachers and also get to sit in on some of the STAR event participation, so I can maybe get some ideas for our FCCLA activities and fundraisers, as well as stuff that I can bring back to the classroom. Students do make up the work. They will be missing 2.5 days of school. We'll leave Wednesday at, I believe, noon. And yes, we can leave it, we can leave at noon because it starts, I have to check in by 3. And then we're done at noon on Friday, so we'll be back here right around, I guess, 2 o'clock, because my MapQuest said it would take about an hour and 45 minutes to get to Lancaster. So students last year, we brought books, and we do have a little tiny bit of downtime that they can actually do their work, so that's what they did last year. So we'll do the same thing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We have the money to pay for it, and it is, like I said, it's our second time, it's our first time competing, which is they're pretty excited about that, so.
So they're not individual costs, it's basically a cost for the group, and they have raised the $1,850
Yes,
to $78.
yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, the biggest expense is really staying at the conference, the paying for the rooms and the meals. And I try to be able to just drive every day, and there's a 30-mile radius rule because they look at the safety of students coming back and forth. So I understood that, but we were kind of looking to do it a little bit on the cheaper side. Because the cheapest part is really, it's $55 to attend the conference all 3 days. It's really just the room and board and taxes and all that stuff.
And can I ask you what the competition is?
The competition, there's lots of different competitions
That
our students, it's a community service display. So it's a chapter service, something that students will do throughout the year. So they're actually, my 4 officers are creating display. So there's a rubric involved, and there's people that come and evaluate, and they are people from the community, other FCS teachers. And then we'll find out on Friday if they win the awards. Some students can be recommended to go to the national FCCLA conference, which is in San Antonio, Texas, but that's really, really expensive. So we're figuring at least if we can get to this, we'd be pretty good.
Are you driving?
Yes.
Are parents driving?
No. No.
Any questions from the board?
Just curious, how many schools are participating?
I don't know. I believe last year there's a huge contingent. Last year it was in Seven Springs. A lot of the smaller schools, which you wouldn't think would, they had like 30 kids there, which was amazing. But we kind of talked to their teachers. Actually, Meg Rhyme is the co-advisor. We went together last year, and we talked to the other teachers, and they just said, oh, we don't have Key Club. We don't have, this is our big thing. So I want to say there's tech schools can also go. I want to say there probably was about 30 schools last year that went. So.
And Steve and Suzette, are you willing to let this go forward to the board?
Okay.
And Mrs. Furlong had a question before you leave us.
What grade are the students in that are attending?
All 4 are in 11th grade.
And you said this is the first time?
This is the second time.
Well, okay, last year was the first time we sent students to this leadership camp.
Yep.
Have we sent students to other leadership camps?
Not for FCCLA.
And what does that stand for?
Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
Okay,
This is only my second year here, and
Okay.
that was one of the things when Dr. Creedon and Meg kind of wanted me to be hired. They said, are you willing to kind of take this on to kind of boost membership again? So that's why we kind of wanted to really get involved in this. So last year, just 3 students. I had a senior and 2 sophomores, and 2 of those sophomores are now the 2 of the juniors that are attending again this year.
okay.
And I believe, yeah, I think Key Club does a leadership
Student
conference,
council
and student
does.
council.
The band has sent kids to.
Maybe FB,
There's another one with
FCLA.
initials like,
Yeah.
like.
Future business leaders.
Yeah.
That's what it is, thank you, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, you're free to go.
All right, thank you very much. All right, have a good night. Sure.
Okay, Mr. Hip here. Are you Mr. Hip?
I am.
Oh,
He is
okay.
good. I asked Bob to attend. We started our project with the cooperation between the PCD at Grandview Hospital and with the high school, working on trying to provide outreach for kids who are not involved in our athletic programs from grade 7 on through high school that could benefit through having a baseline for concussion in case there's a problem down the road. And so Bob has been the key for the PCDF, and we've worked with Dave Babb and with Mark Horn from Grandview Hospital, and I forget the name of it,
Keith Hammerschmidt.
Keith Hammerschmidt as well. And the Grandview Hospital, I know Bob will do that, has been the person who does the testing for the school district for free for this and for free for our own athletes. So it's been a wonderful relationship, you know. Most of our kids end up going to see doctors at Grandview Hospital when they have issues, so it's a great relationship. It's the whole, you know, aspect of trying to keep the community working together for the best interest of our kids. So and Bob has done a tremendous job, so I asked him to please come and share. It's always good to get good news.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just ask one question before I start?
Sure.
I get to read through this, I just got it. You do the baseline, then do you do follow-ups after the concussion? Or the suspected concussion, or does a neurologist do that?
We really just are facilitators. It's the Education Foundation, but what I can tell you is the baseline concussion testing is a tool that doctors use. So a kid takes a baseline concussion test, they go out, God forbid, they get hit with a ball, they fall and hit their head, whatever happens. It's done along with physical tests, it's done along with other cognitive tests, it's done along with physical examination to determine when a kid is eligible to return to play. This baseline concussion testing simply acts as a tool. And as an aside, one thing I have learned in this, and this doesn't have anything to do with anything, but people have been sandbagging these concussion tests, actually college athletes, professional athletes, trying to sandbag the test so if they do suffer a head injury, they can still pass the test.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting better and better at creating these tests to disallow any of that. And again, I'm not a neurologist, I'm not even an educator, so I don't know how they're doing it, but they're starting to zero these things in, so they're very effective. So it's becoming very effective and a very necessary tool.
So they test low to give the baseline?
They try to test low, so if they get hit, they can still pass the test to get back on the field.
Basically cheat on the test.
Right.
It's very common in college athletics, because guys are, you know, their careers are dependent upon it. Maybe it's
They want to play.
the NFL draft.
Well, of course.
And if you miss half your season year, it could cost you millions of dollars. So-
Just briefly, I work with the PT, and first time got it from whiplash from falling. He didn't bang his head. It was from the actual whiplash of his neck when he fell. We got a significant concussion. So-
Anything that shakes your brain in your head, I think, can cause this type of injury. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be an impact to your head.
Right, okay,
Um,
sorry, go ahead.
But as Dr. Bavard said, and to go back to the beginning, and I won't waste a bunch of your time, Dr. Bavard had contacted me last year, and as you said, Grandview Hospital does the testing for the student athletes at the high school and I believe the middle school level. And there was a big hole in the community, right? There's all these kids from between 12 and 18 who play club sports, they don't play for the high school, but they're of the age to play for the high school and they play community sports. Most of those kids, if their parents were aware of the availability of baseline concussion testing, were going to their own doctors. Co-pay to the doctor, co-pay to a specialist, 2 different visits, trying to get their kids scheduled to do a test. So Dr. Bavard had approached me about the idea of PCF facilitating these tests and making it available and doing all the communication and the community outreach. We started, I guess, in September. By the time I got past all the legal things with Grandview's legal department, it was mid-October before we could have our first event. We had our first sessions, tested 44 kids out of 50 available spots. We had to leave a few in case a kid showed up. If you can do 25 kids per session, if somebody's computer is not working when the tests start, they have to be held back. They have to go to the second session. So we maxed it out at 44, so we would have 3 slots available in each of our 2 sessions to account for any kind of unforeseen circumstance like that. It was wildly successful. The holidays came and went. We were kind of at the end of everybody's season. Nobody was really starting up, so it wasn't on anybody's radar. I've since been in contact with Ice Dogs Hockey, which is a lot of Pennridge athletes, some Souderton, and we don't really discriminate. If it's a Souderton kid, it's a Souderton kid. This is about helping these kids and making sure that they have this safety measure in place if something should happen. Ice Dogs are having their Board of Governors meeting tonight. They will start to approach us with teams. They're going to build their 25 athlete sessions for us. We pick the dates. Grandview supplies all the talent to administer the test. We just simply are there to facilitate, to register the kids, to get them all lined up in a row, and to get them in to take the test. I think it's important to note that the goodwill in the community of the Pennridge School District has been immeasurable. People are blown away that I'm calling them on behalf of the school district and the Education Foundation and Grandview Hospital to get their kids concussion testing. Everybody says, I can't believe you called, we were just talking about this. We were just putting a seminar together for our coaches on how to recognize head injuries. I think with this stuff in the news and head injuries and what's going on now and how safe equipment's getting and how much faster these kids are moving and how much more elite they are even at 12 years old, I think head injuries are becoming more common, and I think that the goodwill that the school district has established, and certainly the Education Foundation and Grandview have benefited as well. But the goodwill that the school district has established through this idea that Dr. Brevard, you deserve all the credit for, I don't think it can be understated. I don't think it can be understated. Deep Run Valley Sports Association is going to test their soccer kids, their lacrosse kids, and their baseball kids. We're working on Pennridge Green Jackets as well as all their cheer teams. All the girls are going to try to get tested as well. I've not heard back from them yet. Pennridge Little League, who plays in town here, they're probably going to buy in. I've not had any contact with them. I've had a little bit, kind of in fits and starts with my job and with the holidays to come up with some sort of excuse. But everybody I've spoken with has been very excited. I think it's been all a positive thing. We've got a long way to go. I think it's going to be a continuing program. I think it's going to be very successful. And I appreciate you, Dr. Brevard. I mean, really, you facilitated this, put together that first meeting, and really it's been a really easy thing to do. So we're going to continue on, and I'll give you guys updates as often as you need them.
And to follow up, if a child has their baseline concussion and they're in a car accident, that is still available
Yes.
for them when they go to their doctor for a follow-up, because that's at least a snapshot before they were injured, so they can check that. So it never hurts to have something like that. So I think it's a wonderful idea. And Bob's overstated it. We have great people in this community that have put this program together. So that's just a small part for me. So.
And I think, and I kind of left it out, I didn't really talk about the logistics of it, and I certainly can. But if you go through these documents, there's a letter that goes out to the parents prior to the member showing up. With that letter is the second page, which is the authorization and consent form. So every parent gets that prior to showing up for the event. What they'll also get is, I believe, the last page, which I just kind of made generic for this meeting, saying date to be determined, times to be determined. But this goes out to every parent and child as well, so they know where the test is taking place, when it's taking place, what they have to do, how the kids dress. And we just told them to adhere to their school dress code, because it's easy. That's what we do for the spelling bee, because the Education Foundation runs the spelling bee. That's kind of how that was born. They also get information from Grandview Hospital on head injuries and treatments and things that Grandview Hospital does. And the last thing they get is they can request a copy. Impact, the company that provides the tests, they keep the database. I don't have access to the database. I asked them to change the password because we don't nor does Pennridge School District. Well, you guys do have protection against HIPAA rules, right? You guys,
Say, doesn't fall under HIPAA?
we don't have any protection. PCF has no protection against HIPAA. So our insurance advisor, who's also a member of our board, has advised we don't want to have anything to do. All we are there to do is to advertise and facilitate. And that's the extent of our involvement. If my daughter goes and gets a baseline concussion test and she wants to get the results, because parents inevitably want to see how their kids scored, even though it means nothing to them unless they're a neurologist, they get this and they can go and request a copy of their scores. If they want to take their kid to Doylestown Hospital in the event of an injury, Doylestown Hospital is tied into Impact. I believe they can access the information as well. So that's a little bit of the logistics of it. The test takes about 45 minutes. It's almost set up like video games. I haven't taken one yet. I want to take one. It's almost set up like video games. The kids go in and sit at a computer, and it's probably, you know, pick out the smaller circle, pick out this, and they're looking at times. So I haven't taken one yet, so I can't speak to that.
That's
Yeah.
what it is, response, how,
I
based
think
on
it
how
is.
quickly.
Well, there's
they
probably
use
some, I would guess, problem solving for the cognitive.
Spatial things like that.
Recognizing patterns.
So, but yeah, that's it. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
The cost you had, so you can hear me.
No, I can't.
The cost that was suggested, if you notice on that page, is a suggested contribution of
That's correct.
$10. And PCDF is the one who actually had to buy the test. That was their part of it. And if people can, you know, pay for that, they can write a tax-deductible donation. It's still cheaper than a copay.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than a copay.
Well,
So
and
it encourages people to get the test, you know, instead of going to your doctor and doing a copay and then going to the testing facility and do a copay. We want to arm parents with this data, so that was wonderful.
And what we convey to the league and the coaches, and you won't find it in any of this because I didn't think it was appropriate, but what I convey to the league officials and the coaches is don't let a kid not come because they don't have the $10. We have a scholarship in place. We'll pay for any kid who can't afford it. It's not about
This
10.
is to get them
It's not about
tested.
$10. It's about getting tested.
Right.
So what we do is we'll scholarship any kid whose parents can't afford it for whatever reason. We just want the kids to come and get tested.
Any other questions from the community? Thank you, Mr. Hick. You can go home too.
Bob, I'll be glad
Smile.
to take anything extra that you brought for board members that work here, because I try to give information out to them, so thank
You
you.
can have all these, Dr. Bavard.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll see you Saturday, right? Saturday?
Yeah, early, I've got a basketball game now.
Appreciate it.
I've got a basketball game that's early too, so I don't
Okay,
know.
we're gonna move on to the next
I'm
item.
always showing up if they need somebody to swing
Dr.
it.
Bavard, do you want to take over item number 4?
Why, thank you. It's one of my favorite responsibilities, working
Oh, boy.
every year on the calendar proposal, knowing that it never makes everybody happy.
Don't stay up too late.
My goal is also to make sure you leave here way before 11:20.
Promise?
Yes. In fact, we didn't have more than an hour's worth of time unless you had questions. The process for building the calendar for the board members that are new is that our calendar has some constraints in it, in that we share the VOTEC school with Quakertown and Palisades. The rule is when 2 of the 3 school districts are in session, the VOTEC runs. The other rule is if the VOTEC is open and we're not, we must send buses around and pick up our VOTEC kids because they are required to be there to get their hours. So it's in our best interest to make sure that all 3 of us are in school at the same time as much as possible. So that's one of the constraints. I know that there's questions in the past of why don't we have, you know, a week at Easter like some other school districts. Well, if you look down in the bottom end of the county, those school districts that have that share the same VOTEC where everybody does the same schedule. There are contractual constraints with Palisades and with Quakertown around that time, also around that, like, the other one is the Monday after Thanksgiving, you know, which we should be in school or not. Number one, I don't think even if we had teachers there, parents will not show up for parent conferences on that day, so it's not fair to parents. We try to make sure we have a good mixture of evening conferences for parents because our parents are working parents, so we try to make sure we're accommodating. I remind the association that we are here for our parents, you know, and if they need, if that's the best time for them, then we need to work around our schedule with that, so. It's a yearly lecture they hear from me, in a nice way, but I remind them that, you know, why we're here. So, and we have great people, but even great people need to have some reminders every so often. That's my job. So this calendar has the same start date for all school districts. The rule of thumb is when Labor Day is the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, we start after Labor Day. If it's the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th, we start the week before. One of the things that we're going to have to watch as we move down the road on this is with Keystones moving in and schools wanting to get their kids, you know, prepared so they pass that as the stakes go up every year. There are schools, even in Ben Salem for this year, is starting the week before Labor Day, even though Labor Day is the 1st. Now, you can, well, it gives their kids one extra week. For advanced placement tests, they come the same Saturday in May, regardless of when you start. And we have a tremendous number of kids that take advanced placement courses. Those dates are set. They don't care if you start in August or whether you start in December. And, you know, for those kids, if you have kids who've taken those courses, it's a lot of learning. And, you know, there are schools that are starting a little bit earlier. The advantage that they would have is they have to be air conditioned at the elementary. We are air conditioned in middle school and high school, but there's no way we can bring our elementary kids in, you know, until our buildings are air conditioned. So we'll see what happens down the road. But I'm just at least letting you know that that's, people are starting to think about that, because it affects school report cards. It now affects the teacher's evaluation. It affects my evaluation. It affects the superintendent's evaluation, and it's put out there on the state website. So people are concerned about kids performing. They're concerned even in Pennridge, and our kids do well. So it's something, just teach the right things, you know, and kids will do well. So for this calendar, we have one holiday in September. It's Rosh Hashanah. Our mantra has always been, if there are two, there's Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. One of them is more sacred than the other if they both happen during the week. If they both happen on the weekend, then we don't, because the thing is, you know, we don't make a day to make a day, but we only do one, even if they're both during the week. That's the way we've done it. And as the community changes, we'll, you know, that may affect it down the road. But right now, this is the way we do it. November, there's the election day, the 4th. Thanksgiving is the same break. We are off on Monday because there's schools that don't, you know, by contract don't have kids in. I think it's Quakertown, so we have to work with them. This is, once again, one of the longer Christmas breaks, Christmas holidays, because Christmas is on the 25th on a Thursday, so we're off on that Wednesday before. New Year's is in the state calendar, the state school code. You cannot have school on July 4th, you cannot have school on Labor Day, you cannot have school on Thanksgiving Day, you cannot have school on Christmas Day, you cannot have school on January 1st. All the rest are what they consider local decisions. So if you notice that on just January the 2nd, while we could have school, it's a waste of everybody's time to bring them in for one day. Had I known it was going to snow, we wouldn't have brought them in this year. So.
Oh, I know
But
that.
you have to have at least 2 days to be able to deal with this.
We went through that down on Penn.
Oh, yeah. Oh. I mean, who knew? This is a wacky winter. It's supposed to be
Every
this way.
student was
It's
happy.
supposed to be this way all winter long. So that's what the Farmer's Almanac says. We are reducing the number of built-in snow makeup days in this calendar. There's, you know, concerns from parents, and also making sure that when we make up a school day, it's in concert with Quakertown and with Palisades. So these are snow makeup days for Quakertown and Palisades on February the 13th, before the President's Day weekend, and that Thursday before the Easter break. If not, it's an in-service day for staff members, which is why it's easy to make it up. They're already here working. It's an in-service day for them, so we need to bring the kids in. And at the end of the calendar, we have built-in 3 days, a little yellow thing down at the bottom. In the past, the teachers and the parents have said, we'd rather, you know, build them in, and then you can give them back to us if you don't use them, because if you put the end of the regular year as the 16th, and they book their vacations, and you say, oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have to go the 17th and 18th. The problem now is we're not just losing day, those are days with low attendance, and that counts against the school's profile on the state, because they measure every day that you have for attendance, how many kids belong, how many kids attended. So it's better just to build them in, and they said, let's go back to 3 days at the end of the year, we'll just have 2 built-in days during the year. Obviously, if we have a bad and wacky snow year, what we'll do is we'll come back to the board and say, listen, we've already lost a week. Like if you get a hurricane again or a Halloween surprise, we'll come back and say, this is a suggested revised calendar, but we'll have also worked with Palisades, Quakertown, and the VOTEC to make sure that we're all having the same days, so we have the same makeup days for the VOTEC. I think that covers all of that.
So we eliminated the January.
Eliminated, I had, this past year I had built in November the 4th, only because for the previous 2 years, we probably could have used it if we'd have had it.
Two October, so.
I decided that, we have 1 year where it's, going back to normal, so we got rid of that. The teachers really don't like the fact of losing their in-service day on the 26th, because that's really, for the high school, it's turnaround. If you have a semester course, you're processing the end of your finals. At the elementary, middle school level, they're getting ready for the second set of parent conferences. So, just listening to everybody's involved, it doesn't really matter, it's a yardstick. You move it this way, or you move it this way. It's still the same number of days. I tell you, you can't crumple it in, and right now you can't stretch it further without paying for it. So if this seems to work best for everybody, then I think we're okay. And it must, because when there's a problem, there's 50 parents out here. So I talk about it, the most important thing, yeah, exactly, that's the way I go with that. They have, the most important thing they want to know that we started doing is in November, making sure I work with the other 2 school districts to pick the start date, because that's the first thing they want to know is when do we have to be back from vacation. So, and that solved a lot of their problems. So if I, we've been doing that for I think 4 years, and I wish I would have been smart enough to do it 10 years ago, because I didn't know that solved, 99% of the problems, and it does, because they just want to know, so that's no big deal. So this is the proposal. I don't know what other questions you may have of me for this. We have in the month of October parent visitation, and right now we don't have all the days marked. We're trying to do it. We've had suggestions from the principals and the teachers on trying to do, some sort of variation so that we can actually have kindergarten on its own separate day for AM and PM, and then be flexible for the other days for the parents. Try to do it alphabetically, knowing that if it's A through L and I can't make that, I can switch with somebody else on another one to try to get that. A lot of it has to do with parking lot. People are getting antsy with all these shootings that are going on. We just had another one, and they're scared. And I said, well, let's get better at being more proactive. I applied for a grant, for a Safe Schools grant that allows every school in our in Pennridge. It's not all that expensive. We have up to $25,000. It looks like that was the grant. Everybody had to do $25,000, which leads me to believe that they're going to give it to everybody. I'm at least hopeful. What it will allow is every parent that comes in, they swipe their license. It will check to make sure that they are not a sex offender. That's the first thing they can do. And it prints out a visitor badge with their picture. It's not that expensive, it's about $18,000, $19,000 for all the schools. And then the ongoing cost after that, there's a maintenance of the software, but you can put it right on the secretary's, hook it to her computer. We went through that whole process, and then we just have to buy the paper for the badges. We can also then put in, for Bruce Bavard, that says, if there's a separation case, when I'm to pick up my child and when I can't pick up my child by a custody agreement, because we get those all the time. If somebody has a PFO, they can go in the database and, it'll come up their PFO, and there's a button they can call to alert the police. If it's a sex offender, it goes right to the police anyway, so we have help right away at the school where it show up. There are schools, Council Rock put it in this year in their school district. Centennial School District just started it again, so it's getting to the point where the price is pretty cheap. So
North Penn has it too, because I have to get my license.
there you go.
Yeah.
So it's a good
I only have to do it once.
protection thing.
Some schools only make me do it once, other schools print it out every time.
You'll be in the base though.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm in the base.
Once you swipe,
Oh yeah,
you're
I'm
in
in
the
there.
base. So that's it. So I think
Yeah.
it's trying to make sure that we can, dial down the anxiety and the concern and the fear, because the last thing we want is to, keep our parents happy. We want them to see we do good things in our schools. And I know a lot of places have just stopped that, and I don't want to do that. So we're trying to find ways to make sure we keep it alive and make sure that it's welcoming for mom and dad. Structure it so the parking lots can accommodate a lot of parents at once, go through that process. So that will happen during October, and what we'll do is we'll publish a schedule once we get there. But that's, usually we pick the days when that happens, but we're still working through that process with the principals and also with the Teachers Association. So we'll get there. I'm also going to be recommending that we have the ability to declare local holidays. We're going into a contract, and when you declare local holidays, those are days that there can be no work action taken against the school district. We already have the 5 holidays that the state says must be followed, so we would pick, and I'll have them for you with the motion. I know that one of them is going to be January the 2nd. So that's a local holiday because we've selected not to have kids come in. We're going to pick, I think, one day around around either April. Also, we're looking at the 19th and the 16th are weekends where, while one's Martin Luther King and one is President's Day, they are not mandated by the state. So we'll try to do something to make sure if there's an action that we protect family vacations that they may have had for trips in the winter. So we're allowed to pick them, and it's encouraged that as you go into contracts that you at least say these are days that are sort of sacred and do what you have to do with the other ones. But it's
I
just
don't
a protection.
understand.
There's no strikes allowed on those days.
Oh, okay. So how does that protect vacations?
They can't make you change your calendar and make the 2nd a school day now. If they take an action where you have to then have your 180 days by the 15th and June 1st or by June 30th. So those are days that they cannot make you make up. Because they say, no, that's called a local school holiday. And if you notice, all school districts, I can show you, I'll send you Ben Salem's calendar. They have designated local school holiday. They have in their calendar. At their school districts that are in negotiations, you'll see them too. Or you'll see it as a board motion.
And how many did you say?
Up to 5.
Up to 5?
Yeah.
So they don't have to be made up?
Those days are not ones that they can require you to make up. I mean, in
Who's
the,
they?
They mean the
state needs a teachers association.
Okay.
Or the teachers?
Because, I mean,
No,
that's how, they can, there are districts where they've done that, they put, no, it's pressure, not money. It's pressure, the parents are saying, well, solve it, because now we're gonna have to come in during that week of Christmas.
Yeah, that we weren't.
Where we have these holidays, and now our kids are gonna do that, can't you do something, so give them what they want? And that's not how negotiations supposed to start, it's supposed to be a dialogue and a meet and discuss back and forth with the board. So the state has that, I think it's section 1502 of the school code. They can call me in section 1502, or I'll just put in the motion, local school days, local school holidays for the 2014-15 calendar. And we'll do that until we get the contract resolved. That way everything should get resolved the way it's supposed to in a fair and equal manner. We did that 4 years ago, just for your reference.
Okay, we ready to move on to the next, any other
If
questions?
there's no questions, we're recommending we get this. Our community appreciates it getting done early, so if you're okay to move forward with this. Christine did call and share with Ada, she's okay with the calendar. She just want to make sure it matched up with the VOTEC and Palisades and Quakertown, and it does. Okay, next one is proposal for the 4-day work week again. I sent you information